Well, up next, we'll be talking about the importance of engaging more Canadians in science. Hello, I'm Shannon Skinner, and this is Extraordinary Women TV. Well, my guest today is Bonnie Schmidt. She is the founder and president of Let's Talk Science. Now, you'll meet her in a moment. Later in the segment, before we take a break, I'll have my regular Good to Know Minute when I ask my guests for their top success tip, and you'll hear Bonnie's. Well, welcome to the show, Bonnie.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here.
Great, thank you.
Now, of course, you run Let's Talk Science. We'll be talking a little bit about that.
Sure.
You've won a number of awards as well, including a recent one, Top 25 Women of Influence. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, you're from London, Ontario. What brings you to Toronto?
Well, I'm in Toronto regularly.
Okay.
I call this my second home, actually. We
Right.
work with a number of partners and community members here, and we actually had our board meeting here today.
Well, now, growing up, did you have an appreciation for science, or what was your view on science as a kid in school?
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't think very much about it. I was raised in a home with my mother, who was a trained nurse, so she was always quite quick to talk about medical and health issues, but she stayed at home once I was born. And if you look beyond anybody else in my household, nobody took science. So I actually didn't think a whole lot about it. I found in high school, though, I became friends with a cohort of other people who really became quite interested in science and technology. And it was really through a bizarre kind of a peer environment that I started to really get turned on. And in particular in high school, it was a biology teacher who got me very interested in looking at life and health sciences. And I think that trend of an amazing teacher is one that resonates with a lot of people I know.
Well, because what I can say for me growing up, when I was in school, I really did not have an interest in the sciences. And it wasn't until later in adulthood where I realized there was the importance of an appreciation for science because, well, it explains the world we live in.
It sure does.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, when I left high school, I wanted to be a dentist. I was
Oh, wow.
Yes, so I thought, what a great lifestyle opportunity. But as I progressed in through university and they didn't accept me into dental school, which probably was really a good thing because I don't really have very good spatial orientation, I actually started doing my grad work and did a master's, converted that into a PhD, and it was really there that I really truly started to understand how the process of science is a human endeavor, and it's something that we really need to help other people realize the relevance to what the world of science and technology has to offer us on a daily basis. So it took me a long time to get to the point where I'm trying to really help people, especially young people, get to that point a little bit earlier in their lives.
Now, what is Let's Talk Science?
We're a national charitable organization that is trying to get young people and their educators, and frankly the general community, more tuned in and connected with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're really trying to develop the citizens and the educated workforce of the future, because we really are seeing that jobs of the future, whether you're in college, in university, or the skilled trades, more and more of them require comfort, expertise in science and technology. But also we need citizens. And the way the world is going now, if you think about the great global challenges of how are we going to feed the planet? How will we get clean water to them? How will we have a sustainable energy source? How will we manage climate change? These are all big issues that are all underpinned by science and technology. So if we don't have a citizenry that can ask good questions, that can understand and embrace the science and technology, I don't know how we're going to solve some of those issues.
So as Canadians, are we not dialed in enough into sciences?
No, I would say if we take a look globally at cultures around the world, that our appreciation of science and technology isn't anywhere as close as it is in other countries. We have a capable group of young people in this country. We have such an incredible quality of life already that I think people in Canada and North America, to be honest, see technology as something in our backpack, see something in our purse, or
something extra?
Something, it's just, no, it's actually embedded into what
I
everyone
see.
uses, but it's a consumer approach to it.
Ah, okay.
Right? So we're using technology and we're embracing the use of technology, but we're not necessarily wanting to be the drivers or the creators or the users of the technology to move on to bigger issues.
Now, I know that you had just recently released a report, Spotlight on Science Learning. What were your findings through this report?
Well, that was just a great adventure for us. With our partners Amgen Canada, we pulled together a national panel of experts to really talk about the issue, about where does Canada sit on a global level and where do we want to be going as a country. And the panel decided that for ease of starting the conversation, we should really take a look at supply and demand. Where will the jobs be in the next 10 to 20 years? I have a 14-year-old daughter, so I'm really heightened sensitive about where she's going to land in her career. And then we took a look at, if we know the jobs increasingly will require math, science, and technology, are we actually going to be able to supply it in the colleges and the universities and the skilled trades? So the Spotlight on Science Learning was really the very first attempt in Canada to spur a national discussion on this really important issue. And we found that there's breaks in the chain all the way through the system. We're finding that there are a lot of jobs that are on the horizon that require it, but we're finding that as soon as young people can drop the sciences in high school, they are. And in fact, over half of our kids are leaving high school without the prerequisites needed for university, for college, or the background for the trades.
So why is that? What's going on?
I think a lot of it is a lack of awareness of the relevance to their lives and the relevance to where the jobs are going to be, and the underpinning of those grand global issues I was talking about earlier, and the importance of having a science literate society. So for us at Let's Talk Science, we're not believing that the whole issue of science literacy and what it really means beyond a university research bench, what does it really mean to how we live our lives on a daily level, is not being discussed in Canada. And that's what we're really trying to spur the discussion on and provide programs that will help connect young people and educators and families to ensure that the talent is being developed and our citizens are being created.
And there's a lot of interesting information available on your website that science is around us every single day.
Absolutely.
From creative thinking to decisions we make to just around us constantly.
Well, yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really important for us to get across is by exploring science, which is a human endeavor that's all about how does the world work around us. And like 2-year-olds are scientists that want to know how things work. We're really trying to use that platform to build those skills that are important in all walks of life. But beyond that, you're using science and technology from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed at night. From the decisions you make on the foods you eat. Are you going to buy organic or not buy organic? What are you going to be wearing? What are you going to put in your hair? Are you going to actually, color your hair and have the chemicals there? So it's decisions that are underpinning our everyday life that people aren't really making that connection.
Now, did you have a role model yourself? I mean, there was a biology teacher.
I've had role models throughout my entire career.
Right.
When it came to inspiring me in the field of science, it really was a biology teacher in high school. But I think throughout my entire career, I have identified with or latched on to people who have been extraordinary role models for me.
Do you ever feel a sense of insecurity working around science? Do you ever feel a sense of insecurity about it?
No, not around science per se, because we have to remember science is a human endeavor, right?
Sure.
Science is really about looking at the world and trying to understand it in a more fulsome way, and so that we can influence and that we can understand it. So that process of doing science or looking at science isn't so much intimidating. I think what can be intimidating is what do you do with that knowledge?
Right.
And when you do understand it, how do you put it to use in a way that will be beneficial and smart? And there's a lot of smart people in Canada, so I know we can figure out a lot of the issues, but I think that's more of what's intimidating.
Now, Bonnie, we're just going to take a quick break, and that means it's my Good to Know Minute, and I know you've got a great success tip.
Well, my success tip is knowing that life is a contact sport, and always to be ready to listen to people, be ready to talk to people, because often they come in and out of your lives at times you don't really expect.
Well, that is good to know. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more with Bonnie Schmidt, she's the president of Let's Talk Science. So stay where you are. Welcome back to the show. I'm Shannon Skinner, and I'm speaking with Bonnie Schmidt. She is the founder and president of Let's Talk Science. And we're talking about engaging more Canadians in science. Now, how can we make, something we did talk about before the break was there seems to be a less of an interest of children as they're closer to graduation in terms of learning the sciences. How can we make science more interesting to youth to study and find careers in it?
Well, before I answer that, if you'll indulge me a little bit, I'll tell you about a couple of projects that we've done with Amgen Canada before we even did the Spotlight on Science Learning. So about 2 years ago, we thought we would ask the question of young people themselves and ask teenagers, what do you think about science? And what we found was really quite interesting. They see science as important for society, but really not that relevant for themselves. So there's our first gap. We've got a teen population that sees the importance, but there's a disconnect. And then last year we went out to talk to their parents. And again, Amgen and Let's Talk Science did a Ipsos Reid poll, and we asked parents, do you think science is important? Do you think you have a responsibility in helping to inspire them? And are you actually talking to your kids about science? And overwhelmingly, parents saw it as really important for society, but only 22% were actually engaging with their kids on where science is in the future. So I think right off the bat, when we think about what do we need to do, we need to understand that situation. And at Let's Talk Science, we're trying to create programs that will engage the teen audience. And we have a new program called Curiosity, which really goes to where kids are online, on the web, and connects them with scientist role models and helps them understand the relevance of science in their lives. We, with the Spotlight on Science Learning, did a lot of work on looking at recommendations, and some of the recommendations are to bridge the gap between the jobs that are emerging, job information, and bringing that back into the schools. Because often that lack of awareness by parents, by kids, by teachers, of where the jobs are is a big barrier. If you don't know why you might want to study something, why would you stick with it if you might find it difficult or something that you're maybe feeling intimidated about?
And it sounds so difficult. Just the word physics sounds difficult.
Oh yeah, but the physics of roller coasters, right? Like that's the thing is you can really understand the physics of what's happening if you think about it in a context that's relevant to kids. And that's what we really do try to do.
Now, in your life, if you could do it all over again, would you change your course?
No, actually I wouldn't. Yeah. And I've thought about that a little bit. And my early philosophy was kind of ride the wave. I think from my side, I've been really blessed within my career to have people show a lot of faith and interest in this grander vision of how do you actually help youth develop themselves, so grow to their potential. And one way to do it is by engaging them in these experiences of science and technology. And the more that we've gotten into it, the more that we've realized that there really is a national need, a national call. So it's not about just making more scientists. It's really about how do you help young people get to the point where they can be active citizens and contributors to this world, and they can thrive in a very, very different world than when we were in high school and trying to think about the path of the future. And I've met the most interesting people throughout my entire career. So no, I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Now, women who are working in areas of science and technology, I mean, are we well represented in those areas?
It really depends on the field. So the panel that did the Spotlight on Science Learning actually only did a tiny piece on the gender issue in science because it's really complicated. But if you look at the life sciences, the health sciences, the environmental sciences, women are actually outpacing the men. And in some of those fields, we might be 70% representation. If, on the other hand, you look at the physical sciences, the mathematics, the information technology, computer sciences, we're wildly underrepresented. And in fact, in some of the engineering disciplines, we kind of peaked about 10 years ago at about 30%, and we're actually on a bit of a downward, which I really don't understand, because in Eastern European countries and other countries around the world, we don't have that disparity. We don't see that gender disparity.
Well, what does your gut tell you about what's going on?
Yeah, I think that there's challenges at a variety of levels, from workplace issues of how do you balance family and how do you balance some of the careers. I think there's a relevance issue in schools, that perhaps the context in which some of these disciplines are being taught don't necessarily resonate with women who might want to be seen as doing social issues or socially based issues, and the connection with how you are improving the state of society with some of the physical sciences is not necessarily clear. It's there, it's critically underpinning it, it's there. There's also stereotypes about science and scientific studies always leading to careers that are isolated, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So you need strong communication skills, you work in teams, and you do affect society for the benefit, and I think we need to do a better job building those connections. It's obvious when you think about the life and health sciences, when you go into it and you can see a people-to-people connection. We need to do more of that, I think, on the other side too. But that's a really simple answer for a very complicated topic that many people have studied.
Now, you have a 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
What kind of conversations do you have with her around her career and education?
Yeah. Well, I have to say, so Let's Talk Science is 20 years old now.
Right. Congratulations.
And my daughter is 14. And she's been the unfortunate guinea pig all the way through my career on testing out ideas about how capable kids are at different ages. So when she was very young, we actually launched an early years program, because I was floored by how capable 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds are at wanting to learn and explore. But we talk a lot about the importance of connecting art and science. She's very creative. She's an incredibly talented writer and a great artist. And underpinning it all, because you can't do anything in isolation. So
it is very difficult with isolation, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't. So how do you nurture creativity? How do you nurture a love of the arts and humanities? And how do you underpin it with a real strong knowledge of the sciences and mathematics and technology? And it's at that nexus that you really see true innovation, because innovation doesn't just happen in any one of those areas. You have to pull it together, and that's where you can do really great things. So we do talk an awful lot about where will the jobs be? And my favorite answer from her is when people say, well, what are you going to be? She goes, I don't know. The job's probably not even been created yet. Perfect.
Brilliant answer.
Brilliant answer. Yeah, I love it.
You must be proud of her.
Very, yeah.
Now for you, out of curiosity, who's your out there, the one person you admire the most in this world today? Living or dead?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I have had so many people influence my career on so many different kinds of levels, or people that I want to aspire to. I don't have just one. I think it's just been a remarkable journey, and there are spectacular people in this country who are doing the most remarkable things, and I kind of look at all of them and see what I can grab and learn from them and use that to develop myself.
So I mean, you're really busy with Let's Talk Science.
Very.
Do you have any hobbies?
At the moment, between taking care of my business and my daughter, taxi driving, I have to say that my hobbies have been put on hold for just a short period of time. But it's by choice.
And so where do you see, Let's Talk Science going from here? Or?
Yeah, we've grown quite a lot in the last year, and I actually see us doubling in size in the next couple of years. We've launched some spectacular programs that are really gaining traction. So our goal is to support educators and support parents in their quest to help young people develop. So we have a lot of volunteers. I think that we've got tremendous capacity for scaling our reach across the country, and we've actually had interest from other countries around the world. We just haven't had the resources to actually manage those relationships, but who knows, maybe that's next.
What does it take to get those resources?
Well, it takes a lot of support.
Right.
We have incredible number of partners. Like Amgen has been doing a lot of work with us on the research front and supporting our
pharmaceutical
programs.
company Amgen, right?
Yep, yep. And we have quite a number of supporters, both in the public sector and in the private sector, foundations and individuals who are making donations to the organization. It's a big family.
Now, Bonnie, we're almost out of time, but is there anything that we have not covered that you would love to say?
I think for me, the thing that has been an epiphany is the realization that too many people see science as equating to being in a laboratory on their own. And we have to dispel that myth. We really do need to make science as important as literacy in our kids' education, because the world is vastly different than it was 20 years ago. So regardless of whether you're looking to pursue or nurture your kids through a university education, a college education, or skilled trades, do not close the door on science, because it's closing the door to more job opportunities and more citizenship opportunities than people realize.
Well, thank you for your time today, Bonnie. Really glad to have you here and talking all things science, and I wish you all the best with Let's Talk Science.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking with Bonnie Schmidt, founder and president of Let's Talk Science. If you would like more information about Bonnie, you can find that information and a link to her website at my website, extraordinarywomentv.com. And of course, if you're interested in finding out more about the show, past guests, upcoming guests, and how to contact me, again, the URL is extraordinarywomentv.com. Well, if you are interested in transforming your life, I hope these stories inspire you. You've been watching Extraordinary Women TV. I'm Shannon Skinner. We'll see you soon.